This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, that's what I get. So
Meeting to order at 6:30. Let's establish a quorum first. Loris?
Here.
Brendan?
Here.
Hines?
Here.
Marissa is in here. Lynn?
Here.
And Lauren is in here. And I got a email from Laura, and she said that she had tested positive for COVID. And I got an email from Marissa, and she had a family emergency, and she won't be here. So we do have a form, so we can continue on. It's good when you have more than five. We don't used to hold our breath. Are there any announcements? Any public comments for anyone that's not going to speak for something that's on the agenda? All right, then we're going to open the public hearing on the UDC updates. Do we have any discussion? No one speaking. All right. Then I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:31. This might be it fast. The commissioners can hold us, keep that pretty close because we're going to be going over that later. Okay, so to open the regular meeting, and the first item is to discuss and take action on the approval of a variance request for the rezoning at 413 9th Street and 281. And we didn't have anyone show up at the February meeting, so is anyone here for the 413 9th Street?
Have they been informed that they need to be here?
That would be here.
I spoke to Mr. Bitson, and I thought he was gonna be here. Yeah, specifically, I don't know if I have an opinion either way about it, other than the fact that when you rezone, you have a specific use you want to go to, and I think John has some ideas, but I don't think specifically knew what he wanted. So I had explained that, you know, the planning commission, the next day, the council, they need to be there to represent himself, because I can't do that, so. If he's not here, I'm not sure what you want to do.
And we had some questions, as we did last time, and I spoke with you about that, and so we both have this pretty much the same questions. You may have some more, but nothing I can do until he shows up.
Correct.
Would I be able to ask a few questions if Warren's gonna be the one speaking?
And I'm going to speak. He just said he's not here.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not here. I mean, I can answer questions for the city, but I can't have it.
I'll make a motion to table and hopefully we can reach out and try to put another time.
Brandon made a motion to table. Here's, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Doris.
Doris? Any discussion? Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, we also have on here the tabled last in February, the Live Oak Medical Center. And it's still on here because they were going to get, you might be able to speak to us on this one. The last time they were here, they told us they had all of the paperwork that they needed, and they had, let me come down in here. and they said that they had all the permits that they needed. But they're in R5 and they're trying to do something that they're going to have a special use permit. You discussed it with them?
So I did discuss it with them, and then Ola did call to remind them to not only submit paperwork for this meeting, but also pull the permits, and they have done either. So, again, I don't know until someone
Where
comes
they
in and
stand.
actually pulls the permits, puts in the information. You know, we said we'd work with them, but they still have to meet the zoning requirements, which is a special use in R5.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right, so do I hear a motion?
Table that.
Nine, move to table. Or seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. Table. We might be home really early. So we're going to review and discuss only the rezoning of the property to build mini storage buildings at 1917 Main Street. Is anyone here to discuss that? David?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't have much information on that, other than I have I printed out a couple of maps.
What I can, I mean, what I have here is just a survey property, which is, I have a couple copies of ones that I'm passing out to you folks, but,
Hopefully,
that's the only thing I do. So that's the development, the property, which is, right next door to the buggy museum,
Buggy Barn,
buggy barn.
So this is basically that strip between Napa Mountains and Buggy Barn?
Yeah, Brewery and buggy barn.
you got in the paperwork. The one to do that strip, that is, here's the Buggy Barn.
Yeah, I got that.
Right in there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Have you had any discussions with the,
We haven't had yet. We haven't had no discussion yet.
you know, the last game?
Okay, yeah, I thought he was just today for a minute.
Have you had any discussions with the two adjacent property owners?
No, we haven't.
Be sure to put that microphone next to voice, because I can't pick it up.
I got it.
Okay.
I mean, the only concern with the property adjacent, gets to the buggy barn side, I mean, if you walk the property, you may, I don't know if there's a county might want to take a look over there. There might be possibly some raw sewage coming out of some of those trailers, but other than that, I mean, you know, there's something really to talk to them about, so we should clean it up.
When you're asking to do some mini storage units, which are not allowed in R5, unless you have a special use permit.
Let me just kind of explain a little bit, and then I'll kind of get back and forth.
Sure.
So Mr. Brewer called me probably a couple weeks ago, and their property is a vacant property just south of the Buggy Barn Museum area. If you look at it in R5, when I looked at the C1 and I actually did a search of it, I didn't see where the self-storage was allowed at all, even with the special use permit. We'd have to double check, but I didn't
We
see
have to
it.
rezone it to C1, and then we'd still have to have a special use permit. Unless he went to industrial, we don't have an industrial.
Right, and we don't have any industrial, so, you know, I mean, I don't know if making a C1 would be a real issue, but you'd have to do both. You'd have to do the C1 and the special use. I think that's,
Correct.
if they want to get a feel from you, what your thoughts were, I think that's why they're here, so.
Yes, no, I mean, if you look at the, I guess, the brewery is industrial, is that correct?
No, the brewery itself is, yes, the winery out there.
Yeah, wouldn't, and let me back up a little bit. The mini storage is certainly, you know, one of the options. I mean, we'd like to develop the property. That's what the point is to develop the property. And, you know, in doing so, we need to know what we can do here and we can't do, and then move forward with feasibility study to see what best use of it. I mean, we're certainly not looking to put up, put up some poles and put a cover on it. I mean, we're looking to put a first-class storage facility. I mean, I can show you, if you want, I can give you some pictures of kind of what we're looking to do if we were to go that route. It seems like even a C1, which is commercial, if I'm understanding correctly, has its limitations. And I think, would it be better to try to get it to use for industrial use? I don't understand how C1 is commercial, but then it still has so many restrictions.
Well, the C1 that we have, of course, is to allow various types of corporate entities or, commercial businesses. But you have to have a special use permit for storage buildings, which if we rezoned it to a C1, then we could do a special use permit, but you can only have storage units. I'm sure that, like Lawrence talked to you about that, has to be in an industrial, is permitted in an industrial
That's what-
section.
Okay.
And it has a special use permit in a C1. We wouldn't want you to put a storage unit a block from downtown. And so even though it might be commercial on 281, you would have to have a special use permit, so we'd have to look at the surrounding area to make sure that it fit in Blanco, in the city.
Okay.
Does that make
So-
sense?
No, yes and no, I guess so. So that we couldn't get the property couldn't be zoned as industrial then, or does that's not
Well,
possible?
the only industrial that we have so far is the whiskey distilleries down there. Commercial along that area is probably going to be more feasible than an industrial site. Now, that has to go from all these folks, so speak up, some of you guys, you commissioners. We have several areas down there that's already commercial. So, do you see that, Brian? You want to talk about?
Yes, no, I think that.
This part. Yeah. And so C1, he has to have special use.
Right, we're just,
And so if we look at the map, and I think I sent you all of these, we have a lot of commercial in that area. But
industrial only to the storage.
in this area, only.
The only thing that is currently industrial is the Milam Green
the distillery.
and the property that is in front of it to the north.
That's real.
That's the map, and that's commercial.
Oh, yeah, that's real. But the industrial for all of the storage.
So if I guess if I'm understanding correctly, you're not very in favor of us putting in a storage facility.
Not that we're opposed to putting a storage facility, we just need to see what your diagrams are, what's going to look like.
Let me at least give you something to look, I mean, this is kind of representation, of something that we'd like to, finished product that we'd like to put there. That way we can kind of get a better idea of not looking to put something in just the type of construction.
And, when we do this, we always have to think about the surrounding properties. We have to think about the traffic.
Right.
We have to think about, do we have turn lanes out there that we can get in and out of these places? So there's a lot that goes into that beyond just us sitting up here saying, yeah, we like it or we don't. That's not the point at all. Because we want to do all we can that would assist you to do what you're asking to do. We need to do that.
Yeah, fortunately, there is a turning lane there, and then also, I mean, also, even if we move forward in this direction, we know they looked at the sewers on the other side of the highway, if we were to build a facility that required sewage, then, the cost in doing that. Obviously, we're trying to weigh up, what the best use of from our end, return on investment. But just to give you folks an idea of, hey, this is what we're looking to do and the type of construction we're looking to put up. We want to do something that's obviously it's not an eyesore to the city. That's not, that, and so I understand where that's where you folks would come in and say, hey, look, we're trying to make sure that we're, the city's growing in a manner that's appealing. So we're certainly on that path to do that with you folks. And, certainly hope that we can get, whatever's needed to maybe pursue this. If we, get your approval to possibly pursue this, and then we look, do our feasibility study and say, hey, this, maybe we can use this property to put in, just an office complex or, retail. And then come back and forth, on that as well.
That's my camera.
Storage units are a great investment, and I do think it's an ideal place. I am struggling just with the rustic feel of the buggy barn, and then being able to sit out on the patio of Smiling Green. I'm curious what the impact on their entire business side would be based upon having this channel thing. I'm not on one side of the road, I'm just trying to look. Yeah, so I completely understand the investment side of putting the storage buildings. But it doesn't. The location of it makes sense. Where I'm just struggling in my own head is the feel of going to Milam Green is going to drastically change. Buggy Barn being this rustic, historical feeling place, and then having it right next door is going to change. I don't know if that's necessarily bad. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Well, buggy barn might be one thing, but, 50 yards behind the buggy barn, it's like a dump. Honestly, if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to go on this property anytime you like and walk the fence line. I mean, seriously, I think there's raw sewage being dumped out there. There's trailers back there that are, it's horrible. Honestly, we're looking at figuring out how we're gonna screen the property. That's how bad it is back there. So, I don't know if you've seen that or not. You probably haven't, but if you do, you might want to take a look at it. I'm serious. Yeah, certainly, I can understand where you're coming from. And that's, in that, even if we went this route, it's gonna be, we want to build something that's with neutral colors, you know what I mean? Certainly not something bright orange, to make it, that it's not, doesn't stand out. It's obviously for people, I don't know, which, you said Milam Green,
It's a whiskey distillery that's right there.
Yeah.
So it's a very outdoor, relaxing kind of feel place, which is very consistent with the feel of our whole town.
Yeah, well, you don't have, a sports facility, you don't have people that are making noise. So, you wouldn't, like, let's say, we came before you, said we want to put in a strip center, and next thing you know, we can rent it out to somebody who wants to put in a bar or this or that, and then next thing well, that'd be a bigger issue than a storage facility. There's nobody making any noise.
Oh, and I'm not even saying I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, because it's just a new idea, and it's something that would be entirely new coming into our town. So I'm just
Understood.
slowing down to think on it.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Now, I share Brandon's concern regarding the facility, regarding Buggy Barn, and I don't think there's really that much of a concern, because Buggy Barn does not open towards that side. It's more toward the south, but the distillery, to get, the feel from the distillery, that probably would be.
Well, would you be pretty open to stepping up any type of landscaping that would be assisting the view from the other area?
Sure, that would make sense. We could probably, put something like, a screening type of hedging
Hedging?
all the way down
Yes.
the property line.
Yeah, this picture would be some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Something like,
We might step that up.
something nice like, hollies along there, that would be, would give it basically a nice green screen.
Nice.
That's my question.
I didn't hear it. So.
Well, I was asking him if he has talked to the joint property. You said you had.
Could I say something as the owner of the property?
You're the owner of this property?
Yes.
We have
Yes,
work to
okay.
get there.
But anyway,
We can't hear you.
Come up here.
Yeah, come.
I bought the property from, Frank Reynolds. It used to be an old RV park. I bought it 21 years ago. And I tried to develop it back, RV park. And then the city said, no, we don't want another RV park. And so I avoided that issue. I went up there and I spent, I don't know, $30,000. It had a facility rec room on it, you know, for people who come into the RV park, have a place to shower and have a place to, you know, game room and things like this. And so what I was gonna do was, I was gonna take it and develop it as an RV park again. And I had gone in and renovated the rec room into the living quarters for a person to actually stay there and manage it and make sure the grounds were clean and everything. And the, you know, I forgot who this has been probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago that I did this. And we weren't in the city limits when I bought it. You see on the tax roll, yeah, because I paid tax on this 21 years, and it is, and on the tax roll, it is commercial. Paying taxes on it. It is.
I looked at that, 1.5 acres is taxes commercial and 3.449 is pasture.
Okay, all I know is what the tax roll calls for is commercial. And so, I haven't sold it for the simple reason, I didn't want someone to come in there and treat it like an expo neighbor. I wanted something in there that's gonna look nice. I wouldn't do that to the city of Blanca. So my thing was, my partner and I, we decided that, hey, look, it's sitting there, why not try to put something nice on it? So that's where I'm coming from on it. Like I said, I paid it 21 years. My wife and I, we own the car wash in Dripping Springs. I bought it. I built a 8-day car wash over in Dripping Springs, right west of town. And I used to own the old one here where the laundromat. Are you familiar with that? I'm pretty sure you are. So I bought that car wash. And it was more headache than it was anything else. And so I bought the property up here on 281 to build a new car wash. And then CJ's down here on the south side just beat me to the punch. And I always spent a lot of money on
The
it.
early worm,
Man,
the early worm is
yes,
good.
man. You know, the whole thing of it is, I want to do something nice. You know, I'm paying taxes on it, paid taxes on it for 21 years, and I could sell it, you know, but like I said, I just want to do it. It's bought and paid for. I just want something really nice. And so we thought one of the simplest things that we looked around the city, you know, and the only reason I haven't like presented some plans or anything like this, I just didn't want to get in a situation where I spent a ton of money on trying to get it zoned commercial or industrial, or whatever I needed to do. And so I had talked to Warren, you know, 2 weeks ago, and he basically told me, he said, you need to just come up here and explain to what the city in P and Z, what I wanted to do. So, thank you for hearing.
Thank you, sir. Very much.
Thank you very much.
It is, I mean, certainly, whenever, you know, adjustments need to be made, in the, you know, as far as, you know, putting a screening, whatever, certainly we would do anything that's needed to be done, that you folks think need to be done to make it more appealing.
Well, I just want to make sure it stays clean. We've got a storage center that looks like a junkyard. And that's not what we want out here. So that, if you wonder why we're a little hesitant, it's because that it can get junky pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's cleaned up and there's nothing outside and we can put some extra muscle into it, that says that you can't park outside and it has to stay clean and we have to have the additional the additional screening so that, and I do believe that a good thing would be for you to go talk to your neighboring properties and make sure that we don't have any hiccups there that they don't want that there, because you can tell them, you can show them these pictures and you can get a good feel for that. And then we can talk even more, because you're gonna have to.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, I don't know, how are we supposed to address the issue? I mean, with all the traders next door, there's about 6 or 8 traders lined up over there. I mean, you want to talk about a junkyard, man, if I go over there and talk to the guy, he's gonna want to talk me out of it. I mean, seriously.
You need to go to the city administrator, and talk to them, administration office, and they can get some enforcement perhaps that can help you there. We can't help you there.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the only thing, I mean, as far as, the other neighbors, certainly, I mean, you know, we'd like to make it appealing, you know, that we're not detracting from what they're trying to do as well.
And I understand, but, you know, we can't do as others do. We have to do the best we can. And I hope the others will follow suit and ask the administration to help us there a little bit. But I just suggest to you that I personally think it's a great place. We need more storage facilities terribly in this town. And it's out where there is a place for it. But I think we need a little more information and have a little more conversation with Warren and get a little additional information from your neighbors and then come back to us.
Yeah, and I apologize, I did a number on the camera, but this is what I heard. So that's what I've heard the council, the planning commission say, the zoning commission, is that you want to do what you want to do. Look at the C1 zoning, special use permit, also have a plan that shows maybe some kind of hedges or some kind of landscaping, talk to your neighbors. I've heard what you're saying, and we'll take a look at the property you're talking about. If there's tall grasses and things, or actual violations, we'll actually deal with those things. But something being junky is not necessarily a violation, but we'll have to take a look at actual violations, see if there are any. We'll take a look.
Yeah, well, okay, but, so moving forward, I mean, are we supposed to, are we gonna get a reply?
You need to speak with Warren at the administration, and then he'll kind of guide you how to come back.
I'll guide you. What I said, but I'll go in more detail.
And you may have to put some screening up on both sides, just screen from the jump and.
Don't worry, yeah, I mean, I guess to get it, maybe you could help us with a potential, like a timeline. So what we're gonna get with him, and get, you know, and get back to you, it comes back to before you folks, is that correct?
Yes, and government moves slow.
Yeah.
May, it'll happen May.
Probably.
So if you get with me this week, with the timeline, it's about 6-week timeline. So you're talking May.
Oh, okay, so potentially May,
We could get to the planning commission, and then the next week it go to council. So you're talking about getting this done in May if everything goes well.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Did you want those drawings back?
No, you're welcome.
Thank you both for coming. Appreciate it.
One more thing before we close is that,
We can't hear you back there. So.
okay, one of the things that I did, I just spent 2 weeks up there at the facility, and you should go and take a look at it. Trim the trees, cut all the grass, you know, because I kind of ignored it because, gee, the people throw stuff across the fence and it gets dirty, it gets trashy. And so I went over there and spent 2 weeks over there just recently, and I cleaned it up.
I'll drive out and look at it.
Ma'am, and I appreciate if you guys go there and take a look at it.
Especially take a look next door, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I
understand where the property is. I'm hearing it, but I'm not quite sure. So is it?
Just north of Buggy Barn.
Right?
It's right beside the buggy, it's right between the buggy barn and the Napa store.
So it fronts 281, it's right in front of Myron and Green.
That's it, exactly.
Okay, thank you. I thought that might be it.
Okay? Thank you for your time.
Hey, y'all, good night.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk later.
Where'd she go? I thought they were maps, so she could see where it was at.
Hey, she's talking about something back and stuff. Yeah.
I couldn't go with that.
I'm gonna go downstairs so we can see it. You're gonna see, the logo doc, that's what he's talking about, okay? It's conference is right there. So, there's the line right there. Okay, so I sent you folks the historic, Blackout Historic District paint guidelines.
Yeah.
Everybody got them?
Yeah.
And, the commissioners, maybe what you have to say.
I think the outline itself, I mean, I read it from the cover to cover there, makes a lot of sense. I mean, it describes in, I think, very general terms of what we want to achieve, but leaves a lot of interpretation room on either side, whether, the city side or the person who wants to develop it, but I think it makes a lot of sense the way it is formulated.
I thought it was helpful too that y'all included the color palettes and places they could go to also gain assistance in the proper paints. I thought that was very helpful.
Thank you. As, my name is Wendy Cambridge. I am one of the commissioners on the Historic Preservation Group, and we had a lot of COAs coming in with paint colors from here to there. And so we had to come up with something to give them still the freedom to choose, but keep it within the palette of the historic district, which is basically muted colors, not vibrant. So I'm glad you appreciate the freedom and yet the structure.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. I think it gives some structure and some parameters within which you can avoid aberrations.
No comment?
No, yeah, that was, yeah, well done.
Can I make a motion? Or is it too early?
What about Morris?
It's fine, they did good stuff.
I think they've done a great job here,
Yeah.
and I'm really, really happy that we have some muted colors that when people drive through town, and we have visitors, it doesn't look like a colorful clown show. And so I think it's good. How do you feel that the businesses around here will, have you talked to them about this, about the colors?
I've been on the commission a couple years now, and prior to that, I think they were pretty much on board already of the muted, of the colors that were more historic in nature. The only ones that kind of have gone over the line or out of the box a little bit is the yardage shop with that bright lavender. But it's still okay. I mean, it still fits in. I don't think it's a hindrance to any businesses. I think most, if not all, want to have the continuity of the historic feel to our community, and those colors definitely reflect that.
So will that lavender, will her little lavender, thing, will you still allow that? Will it be grandfathered in? Are you going to have how is that process going to work when businesses come to you? I guess
We haven't pursued that. Our assumption is it'll be grandfathered in because they were given approval, not by the historic commission, but we're given approval. So that's all right. It's not extreme by any stretch, but it is a more vibrant color than we're expecting from this point forward. And we're hoping that these paint guidelines would be incorporated into the Lanco's, I'm gonna get to it here. Design guidelines for the historic district would be incorporated and also have a reference in the UDC to these guidelines.
Yes, I definitely think that it needs to be in the UDC code because people go to that and it's online. People can see it and have that reference to it. And if it's not the UDC code, it kind of gets overlooked. I'm kind of right now, I'm like, we're passing ordinances and we're passing all kinds of things, but it's not getting the UDC code. So now when I have to go look something up, I have to look in the UDC code, then I got to go down the ordinances and see what am I missing? Because the UDC code stands as the final. So it stands over an ordinance as long as it's printed. I mean, that's what it says in companies and restaurants. That's what it says in the front of the UDC code. So I just want to make sure that we get it everywhere and that people have access to it. And I guess we'll let them know that they can come and talk about it. Will businesses know that?
Yes, they should. Well, whenever anyone submits a COA, they will be told the color guidelines.
Okay.
To refer back to those and hopefully they will help them to kind of understand.
I think it's a great idea.
Am I correct in assuming that this guideline would be implemented going forward, not going backwards, making people or businesses apply?
And the grandfather, that's what she said.
Correct. There truly are in our district right now, no one out of compliance.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a good thing.
It is.
Who reviews this on your committee?
We all do.
Okay.
When the COA comes in, Rudy Nino writes up a report, but we also, in fact, we just had one come through and the colors were not identified. And so I asked Rudy to please provide the colors that they were requesting, and he did. So we would all be referencing that.
Any more discussion, folks?
So in writing this, did you all see that y'all were having COAs coming across that were outside of what you would want to see? So that y'all decided y'all needed to write this? Like, what made this kind of come together now if everybody's pretty much in compliance for it?
We were getting a lot of questions, what colors should we use? And so we felt the best way to answer that in a general sense, and for every individual business was to provide guidelines.
And it's good to have a guideline for, you have, a case that you have to worry about.
You have to live with it.
Because that's when you can't do those guidelines anymore. You have to have the guidelines before it becomes a problem.
We're trying to put the cart before the horse.
That's,
I mean,
that's good.
before the cart.
Whichever
One
way.
passes to the other, and we're trying to get it to that.
And I'm all for, having such guidelines. It makes sense. It is flexible. It's flexible enough both for the historic commission, but also for the applicants to find something that is appealing to people.
That COA that y'all have, that applies for you paint.
I'm sorry?
It applies for more than just the paint, right? The COA.
Yes, yes, if they're trying to do anything to the exterior, a COA is required. And paint being one of the primaries one. Paints and signage.
So,
And I guess materials used also, right?
If they can't match, then if they can't have the exact, then they try to find something as close to it as they can, as has the red done on it.
So we got first-hand knowledge.
Right. And that's my only hesitation here. I think all this looks good. I'm trying to think about from a business standpoint. Where's the part where somebody comes up with something that would look good but doesn't fit this? And I guess, it would go for historical anyway, but It all looks good on paper. I'm just trying to imagine like the what.
I knew it was pretty funny. I was just.
I'm just trying to think of from like business parameters, like, hey, if I was trying to do something, where would this be a negative versus a positive? But looks good.
So I see it more as a positive also from a business point of view, because there's guidelines, there's guidance there, so you can, and there's guidance where you can choose, it's not, you have to have, this shade of front, and only that, it's pretty good, so that's what I like about it.
And I think our historic district is not cookie cutter by any stretch, so
Okay.
the variety is good in our homes, in our buildings. Every building's a different age almost, it seems like, so the colors are good. It gives character. And that was also said in these guidelines, we respect the character of our community and the other businesses within it.
When your group does make these guidelines, do you notify all the historic owners of new guidelines that come out on those properties?
That has not been done in the past, and that is what we're trying to initiate. In fact, I've heard that there is a group of, perhaps you can respond to this, a group of business owners in the square that are making their own little, I don't want to say club, but organization.
Yes.
And I don't know if Roxanne has contacted you, but we would love to be part of that so we can work hand in hand with you and not against you.
Fair enough. We're only a few meetings in, we're still trying to figure out what we really are and what accomplishments we can achieve. But yes, that would make sense at some point.
Excellent.
Any more discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the draft for the preservation, from the Historic Preservation Commission regarding the paint guidelines with the proviso that in due course, there's proper reference made in the UDC for the guidelines.
I second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all your work. This looks like a lot of work.
What's this?
And thank you for asking that be put in UDC code, because I think it's really important.
It's important.
And please also convey our thanks to all of the members of the Historic Preservation Commission for their help.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, so y'all got the minutes from February. And I left my name off because he wasn't really there, so I told y'all to put him on. I put him on. But the previous one had you were absent, and so I wanted to be sure to take that off, and I didn't go back to your name.
That's all right. That's fine.
No snub here.
No, I mean, I was mentioned in the minutes several points as I figured I was there.
It turned out, I started out, I thought, well, this is gonna be quick, I'm not gonna have any problem doing this, but there was a lot that went on, more than I thought. It's just like,
Yeah, it's funny afterwards, I kind of forget, and I read through back through here.
Yeah.
Oh, we got it. There's a bunch of stuff. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes already? Yes. I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Any discussion? Everybody in favor? Okay, now y'all thought we were gonna get out of here early, but now we have animal to work on. Okay, so we did these, we've gone through these minutes before, but Laura and I went through them. I don't know if Lauren ever got to go through the minutes that we submitted, did you, Lauren, or not? Did you get to read through them? The changes that we were asking for? Kind of maybe, not really.
No, I mean, I glanced at them, but I didn't go through them line by line.
No, I didn't think, I mean, you didn't find anything.
No, I didn't find anything unusual about it. No, I read through them. You bet.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
think on the first page, I don't think we changed, I don't think I went back and edited anything, and even in talking with Laurie, I don't think that we actually changed anything on that. And we went pretty much in detail. I didn't take out this where appendix D is. I don't know if you saw that or not, Warren, on chapter 4, section 4.11, the certificate of appropriateness application procedure. And it references in there, see, appendix D.
Mhm.
We don't know where appendix D is.
I haven't been able to find it either.
Do you recall it? We looked everywhere. Yes, we looked at it. And I even went to like the sign ordinance, and I went to the maintenance ordinance, and, you know, the fee ordinance.
And that's all codified now. The sign ordinance is part of the UDC, it's all in there.
In the UDC?
No, well, no, it's not in the
Yeah,
UDC.
not
No.
yet. But, yeah, but I went through all those things to try to find the appendix D. So I don't know where that is,
Yeah.
but it's certainly something that we either needed to take out of here.
Okay.
Or find it. I'm not sure which. I don't know which. Maybe you do that in city council.
Well, I'll take a look at it. You bet.
Now, when I put on there, see attached, I think we went through that before. Where it has section 4.132 and section C and D. And that's at the bottom of the second page. You can find that. Everybody find that? Nobody had comments. Okay, so I still didn't get an answer, and I think that, look at the question mark about this. Laura was going to ask you about the residential solar minimum lot acreage in that table 5.1, that is 20,000.
Well, that looks,
Figure out what this is.
Well,
Chapter 5, table 5.
I know what you're talking about, because it doesn't make sense to me either.
It's bigger than the other ones.
It's way bigger, but I thought maybe there was a reason for it, but it's way bigger.
I just, you know, we talked about that because that 20,000, since it's a residential pool, it's talking about 20 units per acre, so it's talking about apartment complex or multiple housing anyway. But I don't know, and we talked about that, Brandon, I think. We have no clue what that 20,000 is, but whatever it is needs to be addressed. I would think that we have a good minimum lot area and defined it a little bit. I didn't
Can you tell me what the table is again? I'm
It's on 5.1.
5.1.
Yeah, in section 5.3, when you go down, it shows you table 5.1. I'll give you the page numbers, my page numbers are not.
These will be different than mine.
I don't know what they were trying to do because 20 units per acre, so I don't know if they're trying to say they're gonna have so many square feet for the whole complex, if it's at one end, or if each building in that complex, maybe 20,000, then I don't know. It can't be. Okay.
I just assumed he was talking about a small apartment complex and the X amount of square footage on the lot size. Appropriate, I still can't wrap my head around the.
It's in chapter 5.
Page 171.
Yeah, in the online version of the chapter 5, this is page 171 of 317.
Oh, I'm seeing it here. Okay. Yeah, so it goes from residential 3, which is 6,500 to 20,000 for residential 4. And then back to 6,500 for residential 5. Minimum lot area. But we'll have to look at that. That might be because it's multifamily, but we'll have to look at that.
Residential 4 is multifamily. Is it?
Yes.
And residential 5, I guess, would be probably apartment complexes.
The mixed, well, yeah, mixed
Apartment
use.
are essentially the same thing in terms of housing. So that's why those numbers are the same.
I don't need R5, so I'm probably cool.
Yeah.
R5 so many times.
I know.
I know that inside down.
We'll take a look at that 20,000.
I
Okay,
mean,
so,
to me, in a way, it makes almost sense, when you want to build a multi-family unit, 20 units per acre, that your minimum lot size is
Could be.
half an acre. The 20,000 is roughly half an acre. I mean, how do you want to put 20 units on less than half an acre? You have to build very tall. I mean, to me, the 20,000 makes sense, but it's just not sure where it came from.
20,000 square feet?
Yeah,
Makes sense saying it the way you're saying it. If it's going to be multifamily, you wouldn't want to have less than half an acre for an apartment complex. I get that. But we'll have to look at that.
because I'm not familiar with all of the UC, it's pretty voluminous document. Doesn't Bangor have restrictions on the number of stories that you can build?
It's 2, isn't it?
I thought it was
3?
3, but I could be wrong.
Maybe it's
You know better than I
I
can.
know.
For some reason, I thought it was
It's
3.
something now. Look to see how high.
But even if it is 3, how do you?
I believe it is. I know where it came from was 3. I'd have to look. I don't want to say something. I believe it is.
I only know it's over 1.
I believe
More
it's
than
3.
one.
Wow.
Let's assume it's 3, if it's 3, half an acre, the density of 20, so you have 10 units and times 3, I mean, that's 2 or 3, I mean, 20,000 makes sense to me.
20,000.
Square feet as a minimum lot size for a multifamily.
That's how I originally read it. I just think it needs to be clarified.
Yep.
Yeah, and not, that is not my real goal.
So anyway, that's okay.
Okay.
And if you look on that second page, we talked about down at the bottom where it says add to UDC, that C and D part. And so the top part, actually, that came from an addition to the, what the city had done, and I pulled that out of that and put it in there because these codes, dormant projects, permit application, project progress, and project, those terms are in the UDC code, but they're not listed in the front as in the dictionary until you put them. So this just is an explanation of what you're going to read later on, kind of helps clarify.
Attorney speak.
Okay, so the last thing, the last page, everybody's viewed so far, you sort of make your heart stop. The city council had a consent agenda back in January. I didn't give you that part of it, but you got it written down this one. And so they had restructured the planning and members of the voting and membership in P and Z. And what you see on the blue and yellow, this one, did you get? At the top is the way that the city had written. And so what I did was I took that and then I gave you a little color code at the top. And I said, I think that what is yellow should be deleted and what is blue should be added. Yes, that one right there. Because that is exactly how it was written in the city council to take a look at on the P and Z membership. Some of that came about due to that we didn't have anything in the P and Z like they do in the historical commission that said that if you missed more than, if you missed more than 3 meetings a year, then you had to resign. The other thing was that they had in theirs that the, let's see how they put that. In their city council membership and voting, they had the term shall expire on the first day of July of the appropriate year. And I'm not sure why they put July. And I talked to Laura, and I haven't talked to you about this. You've been pretty.
I haven't heard anything about
You've been
this.
pretty covered up. And we've always had our term expire in May for years. In May, we elect new officers and your term expires and you start over the 2-year term. So I'm not sure why that was changed to July of the appropriate year. And then it had any vacancy of the commission. I'll just read what was in their codification, then we'll go back. Any vacancy on the commission shall be filled by the mayor for the remainder of the non-expired term. Recommendations for members to serve shall be made by planning and zoning commission and approved or appointed by the city council. Any member of the commission who fails to attend at least 75% of all meetings of the commission within a 12-month period, which is good, shall be removed from the commission unless such failure to attend was the result of illness or other acceptable excuse as determined by the city council. And then it says, the planning and zoning commission shall choose its own vice chair. All members, including the chair, shall be entitled to 1 vote upon each question. The commission has always elected our own chair, vice chair, and secretary. And so I'm not sure why that was narrowed down to vice chair. So what you see on here, you see on this one, I highlighted on the top and then I just wrote it as if it was accepted at the bottom, as if that was accepted. And so this is what this says. And this said the planning and zoning commission is known as the P and Z will be formed and conduct all activities in accordance with this code and other applicable code requirements. The ordinance creating the commission and any adopted bylaws that have been approved by the city council. The planning and zoning commission shall be composed of 7 members, which include the chair, who are appointed by the city council, as we always have been. 5 voting commissioners shall be residents of the city of Blanco or extraterritorial, say that for me, extraterritorial
Extraterritorial jurisdiction.
extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ. I'm gonna call it ETJ. And then it says 2 of the foregoing 5 voting members may live outside the city limits so long as they own a business or are employed within the city limits of Blanco or ETJ. The remaining 2 of the 7 commissioners may reside outside the city, Blanco city limits with ETJ. Each member shall serve a term of 2 years. And it's that this one starts saying the term shall expire on the first day of July. Now, that doesn't agree to the ordinance. Number 1. It doesn't matter. I mean, the ordinance is a lot of detail and what's in the UDC code is summarized to a great extent. So this is what I revised on looking at the ordinance and asked and what the city, because they do add something that is really good. So here's was my interpretation of all of that put together. The planning and zoning commission, also known as the PNG, will be formed and conduct all activities in accordance with this code and other applicable cities code requirements the ordinance creating a commission and any bylaws that have been approved. So I didn't change any of that first preliminary. Then the planning and zoning commission should be composed of 7 members, which include the chair, who are appointed by the commission. And that's true. Then,
Council, right?
pardon me?
Council or commission?
What about city council?
You said commission, but the chair thought was appointed by council.
Composed of 7 commissioners, which include the chair, who are appointed by the city council. And when you're looking through here and you read this, many times you're going to see where it says appointed by the city council, because we can elect whoever we want to, but it has to go to the city council for approval, and they can either fill it out, change it, or they can approve it.
Yeah.
So in the end, it is appointed by the city council, so don't think that we're left out, it's just that that's what's going to happen, that's the way it is. They are the elected officials. So, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct.
Okay, so then it talks about, we've talked about this several times. And if you looked at the ordinance says the commission shall be composed of 7 commissioners appointed by the city council. 5 voting commissioners shall be residents of the city of Blanco or ETJ. 2 shall be citizens who own businesses and are employed within in the ETJ, period. The ordinance said different, that the city put out. They hadn't passed it yet, but it was out. And it said, there'll be 5 voting members shall be residents of the city of Blanco or its ETJ. 2 of the foregoing 5 voting members may live outside the city limits so long as they own a business or employed in a CTJ. So that's all it says. That's the setup. So
So does that mean all 7 can live?
well, that's kind of what I read, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is what I wrote, and this is what we have to decide on. We're going to send this to the council. I wrote, the planning and zoning commission shall be composed of 7 commissioners, which include the chair, who are appointed by the city council. 5 of the voting commissioners shall be residents of the city of Blanco or its ETJ. And I really wanted to change that. I wanted to change that to 4, because then it says 2 of the voting members may live outside the city limits so long as they own a business or work in the city. And then 1, I wrote that somewhere on one of these, I scribbled one of these for you guys, and I think I got mine mixed up with yours. And I put 1 may live outside the city limits if they're in the Blanco county.
Because according to those definitions, I shouldn't be on the commission.
Well, it all depends on which one you read.
Do you live outside of the ETJ?
I live outside of the EJ, I live in Blanco County, but I do not own a business in Blanco.
He lives in Silver Springs, but if you look on the map, I guess.
That's ETJ, isn't it?
No, only 2 or 3 of the lots in Silver Springs are within the ETJ.
Isn't that something? And so when I was reading all of this and looking at it, you know, if you look at our map and you look at where the ETJ lines are, and you can see that on the internet now. It stands to reason. I mean, this makes it 4 members rather than 3, because the way it is now, it's not the way that does it, but what the city did was they said, they said 5 voting commissioners shall be residents of the city of Blanco or ETJ. Then it said 2 of the foregoing 5, which leaves 3, right? Start with 5, 2 of the foregoing 5, that means it leaves 3 to live in the city. Voting members may live outside the city limits so long as they own a business or are employed within the city, within the ETJ. Then the remaining 2, which is to get back to 7, remaining two civil commissioners, it said may reside outside the city of Blanco or its ETJ. That means they could live in San Antonio.
Yeah.
They don't have to live. They can live anywhere. They can live in California.
So I am going to say, not that I'm for or against anything, I'm just going to say, our city limits is 3.5 miles, and the ETJ is a half mile around it. So maybe what they're trying to do is cast as wide as the net as possible. I'm not saying you have to accept that, I'm just saying that may be the reason why, because it's, if you're too restrictive, you may zone yourself out of volunteers. So I think that's just a thought.
And I like
But I
the
think
first
you can-
statement where she says you must be within Blanco County.
But I think you could limit it to Blanco County.
And that's what I did.
I like that.
So what I did, instead of having 5 and then you take 2 of the 5, which leaves 3 in the city, I just said, let's make it really simple, so you don't have to read it 15 times. 4 have to live in the city limits. 2 can live outside the city limits as long as they own a business or they work in the city of Blanco. 1 can live outside the city limits as long as they live in Blanco County without any other restrictions. That gives us 4 city people on the thing instead of 3. Gives us 2 people that would be like him. And it gives us 1 person that would be like Heinz. He lives in Silo Springs, but he lives outside the little line that goes down for the ETJ. And so what we're doing now, what I was trying to do was say, how can we do this? Because we have a representative function for the city and yet allow people outside to be able to be involved. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So now that I've said all that, that's the discussion, but that was the.
I mean, I'm in agreement with what you're saying, so summarize, 4 must live within the city limits, 2 can live within the city
They can
limits
live
or the
outside the city limits,
ETJ,
but
but
they have
within
to,
the
they have to
ETJ
work or.
or the ETJ, but they have to work or
Right.
have business in the city. And 1 can be outside of ETJ, but must be within Blanco County.
And doesn't need a business or
Yeah.
a employment here.
So let me ask you this, currently as it stands, what is the minimum number of people that have to live inside the city limits?
And
Sounds to me like 3.
3. And the
So we're gonna
same
make it, we're gonna change it to 4, so we're gonna make it harder to find people that can be on board. We're
thing.
more
It says
limited.
May. It says May.
I'm just throwing it out there, it sounds like we're limiting the people that can be on it from where it used to be till now, and it's not always the easiest thing to do. My thought is just keep it to where you have the 3 that need to be in the city limits, just to give us the flexibility of having more options. I've seen it be a struggle to find good people.
It is.
I mean, an alternative could also be that you say, 5 have to live within or 3 within the city limits, 2 within the ETJ, as long as they have business or inside the city or work in the city, and 2 can be anywhere in Blanco County. That doesn't preclude you in that last category to also elect somebody who lives in the city.
No, sure, you can have.
They don't have to be
Absolutely.
outside.
My thought is to use.
Yeah, and that gives you a broad base, really, you only necessitate 3 people physically living in this. 2 having very close connections to the city, and the others just love this.
Or like you, I don't know how the ETJ gets changed when it expands. I don't know how that
Well,
happens.
the ETJ moves with the city limits.
Half a mile out.
Limits, if the city limits expand, the ETJ automatically expands because ETJ is defined the half mile around the city limits.
But since the annexation changed in 2019, the city's not going anywhere unless
I was
somebody.
gonna say,
Unless somebody wants to be in the city.
How did the city
So it
limits
won't
change?
change.
And so my whole point is here, I agree with Brandon a lot. It would be like him, if I pulled the map up, and I looked at Silo Springs. And Silo Springs is growing out, and so you have people that's living outside, and they're just outside the line. And so do we really want to knock them out of being a part of the city, because they do business here, you know? Now we're talking.
I feel like, I mean, I have a blank address, so I mean, it's.
I am going to make a comment, though. The UDC, yes, the UDC does, I have all sorts of comments. The UDC does, we extend UDC powers between, into the ETJ. So past the ETJ, the UDC doesn't really, I mean, may have some effect, but it doesn't, we don't have any kind of powers outside the ETJ. So that's just to let you know. I mean, obviously, you guys already know that.
Well, we don't have any power out there, and because what we're talking about here, and say there, don't make me. Because what we're talking about here is, do we give people an opportunity to serve in Blanco? Because how we serve, the more diverse we get up here, if we have those ideas, when it goes to city council, they get a better view than if we have a narrower view. That's what I'm looking at.
So I don't know. I mean, that's more of an opinion question. I'm just trying to provide you what I know, but you know, it's hard to say. People that are outside the city probably have something to contribute, but there is something to be said for local control too. So.
Well, by saying it's in Blanco County is a lot better than just saying they don't have to be, they can live anywhere.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think that we should have anybody from San Antonio.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So we can leave it out. I can change it up and make sure that one will put it on the line for the meeting, for the city council meeting. So do y'all, may not tell me what you want. I'm just telling you what I went through to try to make this more visible for everybody.
I think it's not the way you're talking about it. I think flexibility is a great thing, but at the end of the day, they still have to actually come in, give their resume, think about what they bring to the table, and then it goes, after it comes to us, to city council. So there's plenty of vetting that would take place that would bring the appropriate person to the table versus just because they don't live inside of the city, that means that they're poor candidate or greater.
In the past, we've had people on the RKC is the name I want to use because I believe that he lived in the county, but he was not in the ETJ.
No, RKCL's property definitely was outside of ETJ.
No, I'm talking about his, when he came on.
Yeah.
He was way on out.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, not even in Seattle Springs. Oh, okay.
Now, they moved in, and I think that where he was in the county. But at that time, we only had.
I think you guys are needs because we didn't notice it.
But, in our case, the lodge also in Seattle Springs is outside of ETJ.
Yeah.
So what I suggested was we have 4 commissioners in the city, 2 that have businesses or live or work here, and 1 that would be outside the city limits as long as they're in Blackwood. So Brandon would like to call it 3 in the city, 2 that can live outside but own a business or work here, and 2 that have to at least live in Blanco County. So is that the way we want to go back? I just want to make sure we put Blanco County and not just leave it open too.
I think definitely Blanco County.
Sounds better.
I'm for the latter.
The latter what? Somebody
Meaning
can-
3-2-2.
3-2-2.
Yes.
Yeah. 3-2-2.
Doris?
Yeah. So, because I think we've had some people that were really good. They were outside.
For all I know, Seattle Springs in, with the various may ask for annexation to the city.
You should.
They may be begging, huh? Okay, so the last thing that I put on here was that, the amendment that, I think it was Kelly that wrote this, it said the planning and zoning commission should choose its own vice chair. I would like to have officers in the place of vice chair, because whoever we elect as officers still has to be approved by the city council. I would just like for us to be able to have that designation up front.
You're talking about 3.3? Annually, the commission shall elect officers.
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, we're not proposing to change the right of the council to appoint the chair of the commission.
we have been electing the officers on the commission for years,
Also the chair?
also the chair.
Okay.
That's the way I got here.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
I'm cool with that. Connie, what do you think as a council member?
But didn't the city council have to approve?
Yes, they always have to approve. It doesn't matter who, I mean, they
Well,
can,
but just the chairman, not the rest of it, just the chairman.
well, they could still, I mean, there's verbiage in the UDC code that says the city council and or the mayor has the right to remove anyone at any time without cause.
Okay.
So they could disagree with that and remove that person if they felt like that was necessary. So I don't think that we're taking anything away from the city council, but I would like to see, I would like to retain the integrity of everyone on the commission working together. And I think you do that more by giving more freedom for us to choose.
It would, since you asked, it would make more sense to me that the commission, if it right now says the commission will elect its vice chair, why the commission wouldn't elect its officers and pick their secretaries? I mean, that's only a logical thing to me, that you would elect your officers.
Yes.
And,
Okay, let's go with that.
yes.
Okay, so with those two changes, and I'll send that to you in the morning so that you'll have
Yes,
it
ma'am.
first thing. I'll have to make these changes on here to send to you. And with the thing, and we really want to get this planning and zoning commission membership and voting that will be, we would like to make sure that gets in the UDC.
Okay.
Well, this is for the UDC anyway.
Right.
We just want to make sure that gets in there. That way, from whatever we're looking at, we're all looking at the same thing.
You want it codified.
These questions. How many do we have, where they live, and can we have them? So this makes it clear.
Okay.
And this two of the following, I'm like, yeah, let's just let it out. Which one? We can do that, make it simple.
Do the ordinances get into the UDC? Because I found it also difficult to find those ordinances. They're out there, you know, and they're not all named exactly what they are. And Would they become appendix?
So I'm new here,
I know.
but the way we did it in Sealy was the Muni code. This is Franklin, usually codified once a year, usually like in May. So I think that's probably the same here. I have to check with Lori so we can find out that anything that's getting approved now probably will get codified in the next few months. But I'll send an email to
What is
planning
codified
commission.
mean? Could you explain?
Codified means that, for example, if you have ordinances and amendments to the UDC, that it becomes part of that document. That's all it means. Sorry. City secretary speak.
Appendix with the detail, or they just place in there with a generalization and you still have to go find it somewhere else?
Hopefully they'll be placed in there just like everything else, in accordance with
With detail.
what they relate to.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like Commissioner Moore said. Now, how exactly that happens, I can't tell you how Franklin does it. So we'll, but I'll know that more next month as I ask the city secretary those questions.
And one of the things I'd like for you to ask, I would like to be clear, get more clear on, is if it has to do with land use and it goes in the UDC, is it something that is going to come before us for us to be able to discuss it and send it to the council?
So the answer is it's supposed to go to you. probably doesn't have to, but I actually think that the UDC talks about agreements and things all go into planning commission and zoning commission, so we'll have to double check that. But generally, anything that affects you as a body would come to you. Not that it has to, but it generally would. We would try to make sure it does.
And if it didn't, and it was passed in the city council, then what I would ask is that you at least send it to us. You send it to me, I'll make sure that everybody gets distributed with it. So that helps us a lot, right? So then we know about it.
For example, your UDC, whether I agree with this or not, it does say that any development agreement has to go to planning commission before it goes to council. I mean, it says that in the UDC.
Right. Absolutely.
And I would just say now that the ones here, and we're finally getting policies and procedures and checklists and things put in place so that things are done consistently. Obviously only one vote, but it's my general belief that it's fairly consistent among council members. We want planning and zoning to be our screening. We want you, with your expertise, to look at it first and examine it and talk to those people along with what you get from the city administrator, so that by the time it comes to us, we're better educated on it and know we've done some of that work. So I hope that most of those.
And that doesn't mean that the city councils are going to agree with us. I mean, they've got more information behind the scenes than we would have probably. But we can dig as much as we can. We can keep things up. I know that Brandon has, and Lois, and I'm always digging in there. My husband says, what are you looking for? I said, I don't know yet, but I'll find it. So.
Well, and the idea is that if it takes you half an hour for every project, you're basically workshopping it. They may have 5 minutes.
Right.
And then the go-between is going to be me and the staff. But the truth is they don't have, sorry, and they may do it anyway, but they don't have 20 or 30 minutes for every item, or,
Right.
or we'll be there all night.
Right.
You do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of.
And we appreciate all you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we appreciate you guys looking at it, helping us out. Okay, so. Do I have a motion?
Still need a motion for adopting these CDC changes.
So are you going to make a motion to approve these with the changes we made tonight? Is that
So
what your
moved.
motion?
So
No,
moved.
I don't want, I can't make the motion.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the UDC amendments as outlined in the draft document with the changes discussed tonight.
Are you talking in the microphone? That's where I'm gonna hear it.
I make a motion to approve the UDC changes as outlined in the draft paper with the
Corrections?
corrections as discussed tonight.
I will second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Well, thank goodness everybody approved. Do I hear a motion?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Adjourn. 7:52.
Not bad.
No, my side should be a lot longer.
I was just